Okay, so today we'll be presenting Ligo, which is a marketplace and supply chain solution for hydroponic farms and restaurants. We are a freshman team in the University of Richmond. I am Ryder Tuff. This is Kyle Maxwell, Bryce Horman, and Eric Gonzalez. And we're all interested in business and computer science. And I came up with this idea last year when I was a senior in high school and saw its applicability to the Boston market. And coming to Richmond, realized that it had applicability in Virginia as well. In the first 2 weeks of school, I met these three in Entrepreneurship Club, pitched them the idea. They loved it, and since then we've been working on initial market validation and developing a minimum viable product. But first, we'll kind of talk about what hydroponic lettuce and hydroponic farming really is.
So hydroponic farming is a process of growing plants in liquid without the use of soil. And doing this actually provides a multitude of benefits over traditional farming. Hydroponic produce can be grown twice as fast as soil-based produce. It uses 1/20th of the water. It's like 5 times as space efficient, meaning you can grow more in a smaller amount of space. It uses no pesticides and has no runoff, which means you have little environmental impact, and it can be grown all year long, which effectively eliminates any sort of seasonal price fluctuation.
So Ligo aims to solve both supply and demand issues in the hydroponic market. Restaurants often struggle to find fresh, locally grown produce and end up buying produce from all across the country that goes through the hands of several middlemen in the process. So as a result of this long supply chain, there is a great cost inefficiency that especially affects the farmer's side. And one of the other big problems farmers have, at least initially, is finding customers. So what Ligo would do is essentially connect these hydroponic farms with end markets and provide a marketplace for these two to interact.
So in the past months, we've talked to many hydroponic farmers and hydroponic farm producers. Most notably, we talked to Jenny Harris, the CEO of AM Hydro. AM Hydro is the largest hydroponic farm producer in North America. And what they do when customers go to them asking them to buy a product, they go through a year-long intensive vetting program to establish a customer base so that the farms are successful after the farm is launched. So essentially what Ligo would do is make processes like that farms go through when they're establishing their business easier and quicker.
So we found the total hydroponic produce market size to be $850 million in 2017, and we're projecting getting a 10% market share, which would give us a total market share of $85 million. And in terms of our business model, we will take a 10% commission on each transaction from the farm side. And we projected the 2020 market share using a 10% CAGR, which would give us a total market share of $102.6 million. Taking that 10% commission would give Ligo a 2020 revenue of $10.3 million.
So where we are right now in terms of our product, we have developed a minimum viable product in terms of an online marketplace website. We've put up some screenshots of this site. You come onto the site, you're faced with a search bar. You can search in whatever type of produce you want. It'll give you results, as you can see in the second picture. You click on whichever type of produce you want, and then that brings you to the page. You can see the farm that's selling it. You can see where it is in relation to you. You select the quantity, check out. It's a very quick process. All the payments are handled through the site. And yeah.
Okay, so in regards to market adoption, in the future, for our launch, we plan on connecting with large organizations that would help us interact with farms and restaurants. These basically include groups like Eat Well, the Eat Well Guide, USDA, and hydroponic farm producers like Bright Agrotech, AM Hydro, and Freight Farms. So basically why we partner with them is because when they sell one of their products to a customer, we can directly connect with them and make their establishment and launching of their farm a lot smoother and quicker.
So while Ligo doesn't have any direct competitors, wholesalers are the ones that are currently buying and selling a lot of the lettuce. We found that we have 3 main competitive advantages over these wholesalers. The first is locality. the wholesalers will get lettuce from all over the U.S. and sell it to restaurants, which, as Kyle explained, creates a long supply chain, and who knows what happens to this lettuce in transit. So our platform will increase the locality of the lettuce bought by restaurants. Second, we can increase margins for the farms. Currently, farms will sell heads of lettuce to wholesalers for about $1 per head, whereas on our site, they can sell directly to restaurants for $1.75 per head. And obviously, that doesn't include taking the 10% commission. And finally, Ligo also provides consolidated bookkeeping and organization for both the farms and the restaurants. Now, in terms of our go-to-market strategy, we're already done with phase 1 and phase 2 of our strategy. We're currently looking at phase 3 right now, which is testing the Boston market, where me and Kyle will be based for most of the summer, and we're aiming to do that this summer. From then on out, we've got phase 4, which is full product development, which we're hoping to do this fall. And then finally, regional and national market launches, which we aim to do in 2019 or beyond. And now we can open up to any questions that the judges may have.
Just in terms of the logistics of delivery, is
Yeah.
that left up to
Yeah.
the restaurants? Like, are they expected to go pick it up? Or
So that is an option. Some farms, so we visited one farm, Kyle and I visited a farm in Boston over fall break, and most of their delivery is done by themselves, so they'll just go drive it to the restaurants, wherever they're selling to. And obviously a big advantage with wholesalers is you sell the lettuce to them and it's done, it's out of your site. But we have found some third-party solutions just in the early stages that we could adopt. There's a startup called Deliv, which is basically just like short-term delivery where anyone who's like moving within the area can pick up products that need to be delivered and bring them to their end destination. So we had hoped to start with a third-party solution and then eventually build in our own transportation.
do you leave that cost up to your customer?
Yes, yeah, we leave it up to the farms.
So on the margin structure then, when they sell to the wholesaler at $1.10, it's delivered after that?
It's $1, yeah. So they sell it to $1
Right.
for $1, and it's delivered after that. Yeah.
Right, so actually they're going to have to incur additional cost
Yeah.
to deliver.
And per head of lettuce. I mean, these weekly they're selling anywhere from like 500 to 1,000 heads of lettuce. So you can see like a 75-cent increase in the margin, which obviously is going to be a little lower when you factor in the commission and transportation costs, is really significant for a lot of these farms. And one thing we didn't mention, if you go back to the market validation slide, there have been a lot of hydroponic farms that have failed purely because the margins weren't high enough and they were selling to wholesalers. Matt from Podponics, I found this is online. There's an interview with 3 founders of hydroponic farms. They said the biggest issue was that the margins were too low and they couldn't find enough good customers to buy their product. So they ended up just going out of business.
Happy to connect you with a gentleman. I think his name's Matt Guttermith. I never say his last name correctly, but he ran Safeway.com for a while, and then he went over to Cisco, and I've learned a lot about food distribution from him. And there's a couple of questions though. You should probably talk to him. This industry mostly from the restaurant side. Talk about the customer side. Forget that the farmers would have access. They generally buy through service brokers, and service brokers probably aren't going to represent product that they can't guarantee the inventory on. So the 2 questions that I would have was like, how are you assuring, there's going to be hydroponic lettuce at what volumes to actually satisfy the sale, which is a role distribution plays, and then why are restaurants just going to find you? Because generally they don't shop one ingredient at a time through a website. They're using broker services and they're rolling up larger orders. So have you done any work around the restaurant owners in that regard? Yeah.
So first, so in terms of the restaurants, we've contacted a lot of restaurants and we've seen. Obviously there's like a huge health food trend that's going on right now. And this lettuce offers a lot of good alternatives to traditional lettuce. So there definitely is a market on the restaurant side. The biggest issue is getting in contact with them, which is part of the issue with what the farms have been having. So the Eat Well guide that Eric talked a little bit about is a huge database of 26,000 restaurants throughout the entire country who are health focused and would potentially buy this type of lettuce. So I think initially just cold calling them is the best strategy that we have right now. But hopefully as it develops, we'll have another
But
solution.
also, like, from the restaurants that we have contacted, they're also a little more willing to go out of their way to buy unique products like hydroponic lettuce because of the nutrient value and the appeal that it has for their customers and their own market. So they're used to dealing with unique products like this because that's what their customer.
And also, the farm that we visited in Boston, they sell to a country club in Boston. They have, and other restaurants as well, they have salads specifically for their type of lettuce. So it's called Acora Greens. And they advertise their restaurant purely based on the fact that they have hydroponic lettuce. They've got a whole, on the back of the menu, they say what hydroponic lettuce is, where it's grown, why it's good for you. So there definitely is an advantage, and just purely from a marketing standpoint, for restaurants for taking on this type of lettuce.
Great. Thank you. Nice job. All right, Heidi, you're up. And I don't know, Brian, how the mics work. Do we just need to transfer the clicker? Here's a.
You good? Okay.
Do that. That would work? Okay.
All right, take it away.
Okay. All right. Hi, I'm Heidi Droshak. I am a founder and the president of Crowd Lobby LLC. And we are here to bring power back to the people, which of course begs the question, who took our power in the first place? So let's talk about the problem. The problem is that the American government is controlled by corporate and special interests. There's no denying the fact that year after year, more and more issues fall prey to corporate agendas and become less about the benefit to the true American people. Now, corporations and special interests garner this amount of power through two ways. That is political contributions and lobbying. They use lobbying because it is an enormously effective civic engagement tool that has enormous results. Studies have shown that for every $1 put into lobbying, there is a $220 average return on that investment. Now, unfortunately, although we know that this is an incredibly effective tool for engaging with our government, it's simply too expensive for the average American. At prices that sometimes are in the millions on the federal level and in the hundreds of thousands in the state level, it's something that until now Americans simply could not go after. That is until now. So Crowd Lobby wants to bring the power of lobbying to the average American through an online platform that uses the crowdfunding system similar to a Kickstarter. We want to take many small contributions to issues that matter to Americans and aggregate them to hire the same lobbying talent that corporate and special interests currently have access to. Now, I want to walk you through how that works. Very simply, you would go onto our website, you would choose an issue that you care about, you would give a nominal amount of money, maybe $10, $20, something that an average American could afford. And then we at Crowd Lobby, if there's enough interest in any issue and a certain cap is raised, we then combine those funds, as I said, and go hire a lobbyist to represent that issue and those people either on the federal or the state level. Now, of course, we have to ask ourselves, do people want to be represented by a lobbyist? And the market resoundingly says yes. 61% of Americans in 2016 said they were totally dissatisfied with the way the government was run. Now, the political rhetoric in this country, of course, has gotten very heated over the last couple of years, but regardless of which side of the partisan divide you're on, there's no denying the fact that more and more Americans are feeling out of touch with their government. So people are definitely frustrated with the system as is. But that doesn't mean they're not willing to give money to things that they care about. 63% of Americans in 2016 gave to a cause that they cared about. The charitable industry is a $390 billion industry. So plain and simple, Americans are willing to put their money where their mouth is. So we know that people are frustrated, and we know that people are willing to put money at a solution. So why is lobbying that solution? Plain and simple, it works. Again, I reference a 220 to 1 return on investment, which is essentially unparalleled in any other industry. So this is a civic engagement tool that we can no longer afford to ignore. So we know that the market wants it, but how large is the market? So there's lots of different metrics we could use, and I would love to believe that every American would love to use our service. But there's two numbers that I want to focus in on. The first is 139 million voters. That is the amount of voters that voted in the 2016 presidential elections. That's 139 million people who were willing to participate in the democratic system at least a base level. In addition, there's 750,000 people who gave $200 or more to political contributions. Now, this number is large, but more importantly, we want to focus on small political donations. So small political donations are not actually monitored on a federal level. They don't have to be reported, but we have recently seen a swell in small political donations. I'm sure many of you followed this in the news, but in 2016, the Bernie Sanders campaign had 4 million individual contributors, which is essentially a crowd-funded presidential ticket, with an average contribution of $27. And for a company like ours that's trying to crowdfund political causes, this is a very exciting statistic, or numbers. So, begs the question, how do we make money? Very simply, a transactional cost. We take a portion of the money coming through the site, and that's how we make our money. I don't want to go through all the specifics, but essentially we think we can target 1% of the voting population, which is just under 1.4 million voters. And if we can get a $27 contribution from them, which mirrors the Sanders campaign, we can assume that we can pull in almost $37 million through the site each year, which even if we're taking a 10% transactional cost, is just under $4 million each year for crowd lobby. So why us? There's no denying the fact that crowd lobby has a first mover advantage. The crowd-funded lobbying industry is essentially new and untouched, and we're one of the first companies trying to do this concept. But more importantly, we think it's an affordable, effective way to deal with political issues in a nonpartisan, apolitical way by using the top-notch skill that already exists in the lobbying industry, but has previously only worked for corporate and special interests. So that's why myself and 3 other law students have chosen to take on this project, along with a group of interns, some of whom are in the audience. And we are going to be following the following schedule. So over the next 2 months, we'll be preparing for a Kickstarter that will launch in June. The Kickstarter will be a $50,000 Kickstarter to build the next iteration of our website. We already built a beta, but we need to have a website that has national and state level capacity, as well as a certain amount of security to it. Our plan is to roll out that website in preparation for the midterms, which of course will be the very top of the political discussion in this country over the next 2 years. And with that, we plan to hopefully raise enough money to launch some serious lobbying campaigns that could officially look out for the value, or for the interests of the American people, instead of the corporate and special interests. Because it's time that we, the people, are properly represented. So thank you, and I'd be happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Does the website take a point of view? So in other words, could you be supporting 2 lobbyists who are lobbying on the same issue on opposite sides of the issue?
No. So the way that we've, this is
So
of
you
course,
do take a point of view.
Yes, and so the point of view that we take is a majority of the population has to agree with the issue. So we believe in the fact that what we want to support is truly the democracy, the voice of the American people. And so originally we talked about any issue that came onto our website had to be backed by at least 50%, like polling had to show that at least 50% of the population agreed with it. We've now thought about potentially increasing that percentage, so it really was issues that have widespread support. So we're not trying to tackle the issues that are on the edge of the partisan divide. We're really trying to tackle a lot of the issues that most of America agrees on, but simply can't get anywhere because they're being lobbied out of the room right now.
So let me ask a sharper question. Would you lobby for or against marijuana legalization in the state of Virginia?
That depends if more than 50% of the Virginia, so polling on that issue is pretty for.
Yes, but it depends on how you define the question, though.
That's true, and I mean, there are certainly going to be issues that will be very difficult to walk, and so that's why I think, again, we have to be very careful, especially in the inception, that we don't reach too far into the extremes, because we essentially would like to be branded as problem solving, not politicking, and really trying to get at the issues that, and I think this is kind of part of the frustration, is there are these issues that are in America right now where anyone walking on the street agrees with it, but we all know that, you know, the big players in the industry are essentially getting their way. So that is a difficult line to walk, and that has essentially been the $1 million question all year. But yeah, that's how we've tried to do it with the whole majority of voters support aspect of it.
To
absolutely.
piggyback off that, when you talk about states versus national, what would your stance be on a group from New York putting a lobbying effort together for a state down in Florida, where it's state government, so it wouldn't be, or I guess the question would be, is this only for national government?
And how would you even know that?
And how would you know where the money was coming from, and who were the people putting the support behind it?
Mm-hmm. So that's essentially why the basically the constraints on what issues get posted are so important. Because if you can say that, you know, and like I said, this is why we've thought about increasing the percentage. If you could say that 70% of Florida wants to see a reform, if New York wants to pay for that, go ahead. I think as long as the constraints are tight enough on what issues get chosen to go onto the website, who actually funds that lobbying effort, is it, and I will say the one caveat is we don't take any donation is capped at $500, so that's how you can't just suddenly have like massive donors coming in. But yeah, that's why we would kind of argue as long as enough people support the issue, it doesn't really matter where the funds are coming from.
Lots of questions, but possible pivot. Why not take a platform like what WealthForge has done here locally and actually let people privately brand your engine for engaging a lobbyist and just let them go at it? A lot more money than just looking for the 70% issue that's currently hot nationally.
Yeah, so this is basically, I mean, this is like the obvious sellout tactic for this company. I would argue at that point, you're basically a lobbying firm. You're kind of playing at their game and basically building a platform for a lobbying firm to just get their money from a different location. So I guess the answer to your question is the reason that I started this company and the principles that I stand behind.
Are you for profit?
So we're for profit because of the fact that lobbying regulations would essentially keep us from doing what we're trying to do as a nonprofit.
I think there's a fine line of being principled politically and then saying if 70% of Florida wants this, I'm going to support it. What if you politically don't like what 70% of Floridians want?
Then,
how are you making? I don't get your argument about it's a sellout to do like both sides of the aisle and just be a lobbyist broker, because you're going to end up doing something against your own
okay, so let me clarify.
political viewpoint through this platform.
Yeah, that's fair. And that is a conversation that I've had to have with my team, is like there will be a moment where an issue will come up on this platform that we disagree with, and that's okay. The principle that I guess I'm talking about is the fact that this country is, I would argue, at a lacking for having mechanisms for the the average people as a majority to have their voice heard. And we think that this potentially could be a platform where if there are solutions to problems that that a large majority of people have, we should be able to facilitate that. And so I want to clarify, my principles are not to say my personal political beliefs. My principle is to say that if a majority of America wants something to happen, I think that our government was designed to facilitate that. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, that was probably a little hard. That's just been the obvious question that I've gotten a lot over the last year.
Yeah, he asked for it.
Oh, put it inside. Okay, I see. Gotcha. All right, how's it going, everybody? My name is Troy Springer. I am a senior getting ready to graduate in a few weeks. I am getting a dual degree in leadership studies as well as business administration with a concentration in economics. I will go into the Army as an infantry officer for my first years with the designation to transition to finance corps after my first 2 years in the Army. And I think I have an absolute passion for business and investing. And I think kind of my knowing that I was going to be in the Army has kind of changed the way that I view finances. I've not necessarily been trying to get a job in finance, but still participate in that community, which led me to start my site, Rendezvous Investing, in which I aim to help millennials invest better. So the mission statement of my company is to liberalize investing for everyone and empower the individual investor. I wish to do that by inspiring people to think about business and investing, to save investors from themselves by providing sound investing advice, and to provide mentorship to investors. So millennials are coming into prime earning wages, and many millennials are very skeptical of the stock market due to the 2008 financial crisis. Many of them are uneducated about investing because we don't teach it in school. Many of them can no longer rely on pensions because pensions don't exist anymore. And they cannot be guaranteed Social Security because Social Security is in question. This graph, I think, is one of the most consequential graphs of our time. This is the total US equity market, and who owns the US equity market? 1% of the population owns 50% of the entire equity market. The next 9% owns about 40%, and 90% of the population owns 10% of the equity market. A lot of times when we talk about income inequality, what we talk about is wealth or wage inequality. I think this graph right here is the real reason behind income inequality, and it's something that we need to change. So here's the market. So millennials currently are 18 years old to 34 years old. There's currently 80 million of them. 75% of the workforce will be millennials by 2025, which is coming up pretty fast. $30 trillion of wealth will be passed to millennials from their parents, and 86% of millennials say they want to invest in companies that make the world a better place. Therefore, they have a vested interest in what they're investing in. The biggest stat here is 7 out of 10 millennials are skeptical of stock market experts. And this is according to a study done by Wells Fargo Wealth Management. So Robinhood and all these other tools that we have today allow you to trade stocks in your pocket for free. Basically, it's easier to invest now than ever, which is absolutely great for investing. But the people who are investing have no clue what they're doing because they weren't taught it in school. A lot of them aren't business students like some of us here. So Closing Bell is an app that investors can opt into seeing what other people are trading and see other people's portfolios. And it also tracks if they're profitable or not profitable. There's currently 600, 2,000 people on this app, 85% of which are unprofitable. And these are millennial investors my age who are using Robinhood with the average portfolio size of about $3,000 and are losing money because they're trading penny stocks and they don't understand business investments. So why do individual investors lose? Well, first, they lack the knowledge of investing. Second, they lack the patience of investing. One of my favorites, actually I left my quote down there, but one of my favorite, actually a venture investor in Robinhood said, what we're learning about these avocado eating millennials is that they're just the same as my generation. They want to get rich quick. And they're gonna blow themselves up, and there's nothing you can do to stop them, but you can help them. Yeah, I think I got that quote mostly right. The second thing he said is that there's 3 ways to get started investing. 1, you open a brokerage account. 2, you lose money on a trade. And 3rd, you get a mentor. I want to be that mentor to investors because investors have a lack of reliable mentors. Usually they just go by whatever hot tip that they hear. And of course, we're all cited by cognitive biases. So because millennials do not trust the traditional financial advisor, you can bet they're not giving their money to these guys like Fisher Investments. It just does not speak to them. And influencer marketing, more when you're on social platforms and you see a lot of Instagram models and everything like that, are really the new form of advertising. A lot of financial financial experts have turned to starting their own blogs and are engaging on Twitter, where a lot of the best financial commentary is actually happening, but it doesn't target millennials. And this has resulted in CNBC viewership actually coming down. So the way we're assuming all this media is changing, but there's no medium for millennials. So this is my site. It's currently live right now. And basically what I aim to do is I aim to provide safe, tested, reliable investment information grounded in financial principles that I learned right here in the Robbins School, and show it through engaging mediums, like with videos, like with how to be an investor blog posts, with podcasts, with pictures, and stuff that millennials can relate to, because millennials don't relate to big blocks of text. A lot of times in my blog posts, I'll actually link an audio recording of me just reading the entire blog post so people actually read it or listen to it. So here's the current phases of my business. So right now, I started this in December. I'm in my free content. I'm exploring the market. I'm testing the medium and the message. And so far, I've been really pleased with what I've got back. A lot of people have direct messaged me on some social media platforms and been like, Troy, I'm interested in investing. I'm really glad you're talking about this because I have this money in the bank account. I don't know what to do about it. And a few of them have even asked me, like, Troy, could you sit down with me and maybe talk about investing and teach me things? I would even pay you to do it. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. So I've always heard that people value what they pay for. So to turn this into more of a business and help people, I figured I could come up with some beginner investor curriculums and maybe charge $20 an hour to talk to some millennial investors. Maybe I could even sell a research report for $20, just something that millennials can understand. Over the past 1 to 2 years, this could go into a full-on portfolio subscription where I'm giving you more stock recommendations based on your risk tolerance, more developed online courses, which are becoming very, very popular, increased prices from the $20 range to the $100 range, and maybe even ask some financial bloggers who usually are in the financial ecosystem to maybe come on my site and talk about investing. The end game is we could be acquired by a larger firm like Wells Fargo Wealth Management, who doesn't know how to talk to millennials, or Fisher Investments, hire more analysts, offer more varied subscriptions, and use brands to even create funds. So the market for this is pretty huge. If I were to get 0.5% of the millennial market to go to my site, say I get 10% of them to subscribe to a portfolio subscription for $200 a year, that's $8 million a year. Say 5% of them want a course for $300. That's $6 million a year. Advertising, maybe for every 400,000 people who visit my site, that's $2, $800,000 for a total of $15 million a year on a site that's mostly just me and has very low fixed costs because it is an internet platform. But this is the real reason why I'm doing this, is because I think that saving and investing is how we fix retirement. It's how we fix income inequality because of this graph right here, and this is compound interest. And the real value proposition here is many investment management companies, they'll take a 1% clip off your investing. And that results in a huge difference between this line and this line, just from the average stock market return of 9% to 8%. And if you take my $200 times 40 years, that's $8,000 versus almost $100,000 for only one time $10,000 invested over 40 years. And I think this is both a social good cause and something that I just love doing and have really enjoyed for the past couple months now. Thank you.
So how's your, if you're running the site, I assume your portfolio's posted there.
Yep.
And to have you personally seen enough success that you think people are gonna buy into your vision and philosophy on investments?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest question here. The biggest question here is my credibility and just kind of I mean, a lot of the marketing that you see out there is like, oh, like double your investment, beat the market and everything like that. And kind of what I'll say is beating the market, academically is said to be impossible. But compared to what investors are doing right now, just averaging the market or being slightly below or slightly above it, and for those people who are interested in taking an invested interest in what stocks they're picking, if they want to invest in socially conscious companies and everything like that, then this is adding a huge service to those people. And I think, a lot of them don't necessarily really understand what the credibility is. But if I can talk to them in a medium that they understand and talk in terms that they understand about companies that they know, that could be of interest to them. And I think at least I'm piquing their interest in understanding business, and at least I'm piquing their interest in understanding that not all business is evil. You can actually invest in businesses that you can get behind, and it really sets up your financial future.
So my question's on differentiation. So there's
Right.
I'm going to make it up. I don't know, but I've got a lot of friends who do financial counseling and advisor for a living. So I'll make it up. There's probably 5 million people in the United States that do this today.
Right.
And I probably underestimated the size.
Right.
How are you different? Is it the advice? Is it the way it's presented? Is it the brand? And how do you break out from the morass of 5 million people? Do you offer an idea that's unique? Do you offer a presentation that's unique? Do you offer a brand that's unique? In other words, what makes you different?
I think it's 100% the presentation, because as you're right, financial services is a huge industry, but I think it caters to that 45-year-old white man crowd. That's kind of how everything is portrayed in the commercials and everything like that. But I think my message is especially geared towards those people who are younger, those people who don't necessarily understand what they're doing. They're geared toward more minorities, more women, people who are not traditionally interested in that stuff, and teaching them how they can be interested in that stuff.
So is that a sustainable competitive advantage? Because it's the presentation rather than the substance.
I think it can be a sustainable competitive advantage. Seth Godin wrote a book called Tribes, and I think it's basically talking about how these certain groups of people, these certain influencers, these people on Instagram, these people on different social media messages can really gain a following, and people can become loyal to that tribe. So if I can get a few people who are specifically interested in what I have to say, if I present it well, if I relate well to them, I think I can build trust that way, and that's a sustainable advantage, just because I don't want to say I'm like presenting the anti-Wall Street message or anti-big bank message or something like that, but I'm trying to portray a more inclusive message that everyone can take part in this.
Super quick, following up on customers. So it's live, right? You're
It is
giving
live.
this advice. People are following you. Have you done anything to validate that $2 per user cost of acquisition? And have you done anything? Are they already paying you for subscriptions? Or have you done anything like run it through YouTube, seen any kind of monetization already in the site?
I have not tried to monetize my platform right now. I've had my blog for about a few months now, and as I said, I'm more in like the engaging with the medium, seeing what people are interested in, seeing what platforms get the most viewers and everything like that. So far, my usership has been going up. I think now I get about 150 different people who log on to my website a week, which is pretty decent for something I've just been doing for a couple months now. I've made some partnerships with a company called like Morning Brew, where I advertise them, they advertise me, which is especially geared towards like that specific demographic. But I haven't offered any ads yet. I haven't offered any sort of payment services yet. But I actually posted one survey. I think about 80 people responded to it, and I think about 10 of them said that they would be interested in a $20 report on stocks I'm interested in a write-up.
Anything else? Thanks, Troy.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, next we have Grotto. And I'm going to guess this, you got the...
think I'm all strapped in here. All right. There are over 2 billion business and leisure travelers in the US each year. And between your valet, the housekeeper, bell stand, the concierge, that's 6 billion opportunities for a traveler to give a tip. But let's think about how that works right now. You dig through your wallet to pull out a dirty $5 bill, a crumpled stack of ones, or worse, out of desperation, some loose change, in an attempt to show your gratitude. Right. And if we can capture just 5% and change how just 5% of tips are exchanged in the hotel industry out of a $30 billion market, that's $45 million in revenue. So not only are we solving a huge problem, we're hitting an untapped market. And for over 100 years, the act of tipping for service has not changed. And while there are some early startups trying to solve this problem, none of them are targeting hospitality. So by a general show of hands, how many of you experienced the awkward moment when you go to leave a tip, look at your wallet, and there's no cash? Yeah, almost all of us. And I'm sure that some of you are business travelers who understand that pain point of not being able to expense or reimburse yourself for the tips that you do dole out. I'm Amber Answine, and this is why we're building Grotto, to disrupt the way we tip. Using technology we all carry around every day, we're going to remove that awkward moment where carrying cash is impractical, but tipping is required. The solution? Just tapping your phone. Using RFID technology in the form of either bracelets worn by employees or Grotto touch points, both of which do the same thing, getting tips to the ones that deserve them, we're going to provide access to direct employer tipping. This is not new technology. Disney is already using it to allow you to pay for purchases or open your room. But we're just going to bring it to the larger hospitality industry. So with the Grotto app open, tap Grotto, tap your phone to an RFID wristband or a Grotto touch point, and Grotto allows you to directly transfer tips to that person. But it does one thing that cash doesn't. It allows you to leave feedback. This immediate rate and review of your service is an invaluable need in the hospitality industry, but it also is already standardized by Uber and Lyft, who are standardizing that immediate feedback, immediate tipping. We're just bringing it to hospitality. The immediate point of service feedback is also invaluable to hotel managers. And for Grotto subscription, you have access to a database showing employee feedback scores as well as their tips, which allows Grotto to generate revenue in 2 ways. A small per transaction fee, which we feel is a small fee to get those tips that are currently foregone in a cashless industry, and then a monthly subscription fee paid by the hotel for access to that data and the database. And hey, that's me. With a degree in hotel administration from Cornell, a master's of architecture from Virginia Tech, and now a UR MBA, I've had the opportunity to work for some hospitality giants, including Marriott International, Richmond's own Apple REIT companies, and I've recently accepted a position working with hospitality startup Sonder. So I intimately know what the disappearance of cash is doing to my industry, but I'm also a fellow traveler who understands not being able to tip because there's no cash in my wallet. I see this problem from both sides, and I passionately want to solve it. And we will with Grotto's go-to-market strategy, introducing Grotto and independent hotels, gaining traction there, and then hopefully poising ourselves for growth in the greater hospitality industry. Although I've had some great conversations talking to some of my colleagues at Marriott and now Sonder as potential early adopters. So the next time you travel, show your gratitude the cashless way with Grotto.
I just have a question just from a regulatory standpoint. Are there any issues around tips and taxes or anything like that that you'd have to worry about?
There is, and it's actually working in our benefit. Because right now, the IRS believes there are quite a few $1 billion not being taxed or going under the table from cash tipping. So we're actually going to help the IRS solve their problem by helping employees get tips that they're currently not getting because no one carries cash anymore. So these tips will go through the regular accounting process. So they'll have their taxes taken out.
So I asked this question recognizing that I'm old. So is this another app I have to download to my phone?
It is going to start and launch as its own app, but we're hoping to be an add-in to the Marriott and Hilton apps, and maybe even the Sonder app, the company that I'm now working for. So that way, while you're in their app, all you do is touch your phone to a bracelet, and the app allows you to tip. I don't know, no questions, either good or bad.
All right, I think we're good.
All right. Thanks.
Next up, we have Annie Barrett from Vedan. And you're going to use your laptop, right? All right, so
There we go. One sec. There we go. Awesome. All right. Sorry for the delay. Okay, so I'm Annie. Thanks for having me here. I'm a senior at the University of Richmond. I'm majoring in business administration with a concentration in economics. April, I received $4,000 from the university to go forth this past summer with Vedan, a smartphone application I developed alongside 2 developers and a designer this past summer. So I studied abroad in the fall of 2016. There are nearly 500,000 other college students studying abroad each year as well. And I, along with all of these other college students, are relying on these outdated paper guides that have been passed down from generation and just are no longer viable. I realized there was a huge communication gap. There was no digital platform to allow college students to connect with one another and share essential information about what to do when you get to this new foreign city. So this is when I came up with the idea for Vedan while I was studying abroad in Copenhagen. It would be a mobile app that would allow students to connect, share, and receive information about the most essential things you need to know when you are studying abroad. We launched to the App Store this past August. So Vedan today is live in Copenhagen, Denmark, and also Spain, Madrid. At the peak of our study abroad this past fall, we had 231 active users. And just some features to show you guys. So you can log in either with email or Facebook, and then when you initially make your profile account, you can add the school you're studying at abroad, the school you're coming from in the US or wherever you are from, and then your name, your email, and add a profile picture if you want. All the stars that you see on your profile page are things that you have favorited so that you can keep track of where you've been and where you want to return to. Additionally, you can add a recommendation. This is quintessential Vedan because all of our content is user-generated. So you can add anything from a restaurant to essentials, before arrival, nightlife. You tag it. It'll go to its respected category. You publish it to the app, and then it'll show up right under restaurants. You can favorite it, and it'll show up in your own homepage. You can also comment on other people's recommendations that you may not have published yourself, so you can share your experience and let people know how the restaurant was or how the nightlife was, so that you give the best recommendations for all the students in your city. Additionally, this was all demonstrated for Copenhagen, but it is mirrored the exact same for the city of Madrid. So just a quick timeline. As I said, this past August was the initial launch of Vedan. followed by Madrid this past September, all while doing Facebook and Instagram promotions. Today, hoping to win the pitch competition, and then we'll be using the funding from the pitch competition to implement the third city. So we're going to be building an audience and content with the 3 student ambassadors that I hired this past semester. Near future, we're trying to build ambassadors all across the US in different colleges so that we can build a bigger audience, generate more content, and then in the near future, pursue Vedan full-time. This is just near-term use of funds. This is how much it costs, $2,800 to implement a city page. So that is where all of the funds from today will go to this summer. Monetization in the long run, say we get 10% of that 500,000 college study abroad students, we'd have 50,000 users. So we're targeting $2 million a year from 2 sources. First, we're thinking about a third of our users will be on paid subscription. This will equal out to about $1 million. We're gonna match that with through targeted advertising, and that's about $1 million as well. And this is an awesome target, this is where we wanna be, but there's a huge opportunity beyond this. If we can monetize the alumni network, it'll bring Vedan from being a targeted college study abroad app to being the travel company for millennials. There's 1.8 billion millennials right now in the world. They make up 20% of international travel. They're traveling 4.2 times a year, which is 2 times as many as the older generations. And they're spending around $3,000 a year on this travel, booking their travel, 56% of them through a mobile app. So what does the future of Vedan look like? We are hoping to have locations all throughout Europe so that we can serve countless users throughout the world, and eventually this summer, by implementing a third city, get the ball moving so that we can move towards being the travel company for millennials. Thank you.
I guess I'll ask a question. So who pays for it?
Right now?
Yeah.
So-
or who would pay for it?
Like to fund the app? So right now it's just all free. I'd never want students to have to pay to download the app because they're already on a tight budget going to study abroad. The paid subscriptions and the targeted, I'll get to that page for you, targeted advertising, the paid subscriptions would come from the school or the parents or the study abroad program, and they'd be paying for this because we eventually want to add a safety feature, which is like a huge issue right now. Like, you always want to be tracking where your kids are and if they're safe. And one of the big things that brought this about was when my friends were in France during the shooting, they all had to check in on Facebook, and that would be a value added of this app. If study abroad programs had to let them download it, they could constantly be checking in, letting the school know where they are and their parents. And then targeted advertising, local businesses and restaurants would want exposure to this huge network of students that are showing up every semester, along with companies like Bus to Alps, which is this huge travel company in Europe, and they target only college study abroad students. They're busing them everywhere, flying them everywhere. It's a huge, huge program, so they would want to definitely be promoted on the app as well and connect to students through that.
What do you consider your actual competition?
So there is one, so this is like the social travel industry. It's very up and coming. When I initially thought of the idea, we did a lot of research, me and the 2 developers, like why is there not something in this industry? A month before our launch, Cool Cousins, another smartphone app, launched, and they're very different. They have they're trying to reach a way wider network. They're kind of more about like the social aspect rather than like the actual giving you the best information to capitalize on your time. So that's why I think that this is a huge competitive advantage, because we have such a specific niche that we can get them now and then have them lifelong as alumni travelers.
Next we have ParkShare. You guys are gonna, you guys have your own equipment?
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Testing. Word. Hello, everyone. Hope you're having a nice evening. We'd like to introduce you to our team. My name is Noah Applebaum. I'm CEO and co-founder of ParkShare. And I'm currently a junior here at University of Richmond studying math and computer science.
My name is Chris Cushman. I'm the CTO. I'm also a junior studying math and computer science. And I'll be working at Amazon this summer, working with natural voice detection and backend. Now that you know us, we'd love to introduce you to our product, ParkShare.
We like to think of ourselves as the Airbnb of parking. ParkShare is a peer-to-peer parking platform that allows users to find parking spaces that are leased by other individuals. Have you ever had a space in your driveway and you're looking to make a quick buck? We can help. Are you planning a trip and you don't want to pay the exorbitant parking prices? We've got you covered. Download ParkShare and find a quick, careless, safe, inexpensive parking spot that fits your needs. ParkShare, parking made perfect. We'd like to show you the market opportunity that we have. Currently, the paid parking market is stagnant at about $10 billion. The smart parking market has been rising over the years, and according to IBIS World, at 2021 will be at roughly 50% of the paid parking market at $5.25 billion.
So the market that we are entering is large and it's growing quickly, which is a good thing. However, we need to address user needs and user problems that we can solve in order to actually have adoption. So first off, for the problems that users experience in parking, the first one is time. If you're going to an urban area or somewhere you know is going to be very crowded, you're almost guaranteed to waste time finding a parking spot. This is obviously a problem. If the situation is bad enough, you can experience something called parking anxiety. This is where you don't know if you're going to get a spot at all. And obviously, nobody wants to go through that, but we've all been there. On the flip side, if you're somebody who owns a parking spot or owns a lot or owns just any patch of land and you don't know what to do with it, you're not making money off of it, that's a waste of real estate, that's a misallocation. Now let's talk about how ParkShare solves these problems. First off, it's a mobile booking app for parking spots. So you know where you're going before you get there. You don't have to look for a parking spot. Additionally, that saves you the peace of mind. Let's call it parking nirvana. Finally, if you're the user, you book your parking spot, you lease it out to people, you're no longer wasting that spot, and you're making money. Now, we're not the only app that solves some of these problems, so let's talk about our competition and how we differentiate ourselves from them. We have Spot Hero, Parkly, Just Park, and ourselves. Spot Hero is a fixed parking app. It works from user to garage. I'm sure some of you know it because it's pretty big at this point inside the US. It's a great product, but it's not exactly our market. However, we thought we should discuss it because it is within the parking space. Then we have Parkly. Parkly is a peer-to-peer parking app. It exists within the US. It's not very good, but it is doing something similar to what we're doing, so we thought we should address it. And then Just Park is an Android-based app in the UK. It's doing well, and it is a peer-to-peer parking app. So these three things, mobile app, quick booking, general security parking, usually things that a parking booking app would include. So we'll all have those. Then we go to customer service. Now this is one of Parkly's shortcomings. Customer service should be a basis for any business, but they have non-existent customer service, and it's in their app reviews that they don't do this. Then we can go to the peer-to-peer parking itself. As I explained, Parkly, Just Park, and ourselves offer it. Spot Hero is kind of a classic model. It uses the garages, so it's somewhat antiquated compared to the new smart parking apps that are being released, including our own. Then we have accurate parking spots. Parkly, again, having issues with the fundamentals of a parking app. Like we said, it's US-based, and it would be in competition with us. However, it's having these really basic rudimentary issues that we think are crucial to a properly working parking app. Then able to park in non-parking spots. This is saying non-conventional parking. So garages next to your apartment, even a field if you have a backyard that you can somehow park cars in. Just Park, Parkly, and us, we do that. Spot Hero doesn't do it. It's mainly garages. And then North America. Just Park is outside of the US, UK, like I mentioned. The rest of us are in there. And then high security parking. Now this is a crucial feature that we offer. It's value added, and we'll get into it in depth later on. However, Spot Hero, Parkly, and Just Park do not offer the premium parking service that we will be discussing. Now we'd love to demo our app. We're currently in the beta stage, so we have some test users. We don't have a solid user base. We're not on the App Store, but we have some good interfacing going on, and we'd love to show you some of it. We're going to take you through the process of finding a parking spot. Right now, we're just messing with the app. We're looking up a location, if you will. It's a map-based app, like think Uber, think Lyft, for how we're going to approach it generally. And obviously, you're just moving around. We're going to go to an actual clip where you go to your menu. So we're going to tap that lower left icon, get to our menu screen. We see payment, reservations, My Spaces, app info, settings, just some of the tabs, just your basic menu screen. Let's go to My Spaces. Pretend you're a user that wants to rent their parking spot. Well, you don't have any spaces currently, so we're going to tap that lower right icon and actually add a parking spot. We're now taking the Add Space page. Now, this is the location of the parking spot up top. You can actually just auto-click it, and it'll track your location, and then put that right there. Very convenient. And then pictures. So right now, we're adding photos. As you can see, we have preordained photos that we added to our camera roll. And you just take those, apply them, and now you're building the profile for your parking space. So once we're done adding these 5 photos, we'll have built a somewhat complete profile for the parking space. Now, clearly there are more things you can think of that you can add, like description, notes, directions. Anything can help. Right now, this is just a beta, so we're showing basically a streamlined process of doing this. But you can let your imagination run its course on what else we can do. So now I've added the spot. Pretend you're a user. You look for a parking spot. Here you go. You find the parking pin. You tap on it. You're taken to the parking's profile. It just opens up a tab in your map. You can see the pictures. You have your book icon. So we'll decide that we want to get this one. Pretty good rating. Let's hit book. There you go. You're getting a notification. Let's actually go to that notification in the next clip. So here we go. We're going to tap our menu icon, taking us to the menu. You see you have a new reservation. Let's actually go to that reservation. So we'll tap that in a second. We're taken to our reservations page. Now we see that reservation that we booked. Owned by Chris Cushman. The Go icon indicates that you can just tap that and be taken to the parking spot. We tap that. We're routed to Apple Maps. The destination is already set. The route's already given. You just tap Go, and you'll be directed there. So that's just a walkthrough of how it would work to give you an idea of the process. Here's the heightened security feature we're going to discuss. It's called Amazon Cloud Cam. Now, I hope to work with these this summer, but what it basically does is it motion tracks video footage and creates a live feed for both the person using it from the API and the person on local storage. Now, the user himself who is leasing the parking spot will be the person who uses the local storage. It's stored there. Any issues, any conflicts, you look into that footage. Very useful for resolving any issues. Additionally, the footage itself is sent to Amazon Storefront, which is a cloud by which the API of our app can retrieve footage and pictures and send to the user. So if you park your car in a premium parking spot in ParkShare, you'll be able to see footage and images of your car in real time to make sure that nothing's going wrong. Now, this has some very obvious benefits for the user that Noah's going to discuss.
So I'd like to walk you through our benefits. One of the biggest benefits of all is that this is a big conflict resolution. There can be a lot of conflicts that arise if something were to happen to your car or if something went missing. And so this, you have actual video footage that will show the car at all times. The next one is that this provides a heightened security. This is a big, big benefit because what a lot of parking garages and random places off like curb parking that doesn't provide is a sense of security. This will have a camera that you can access live photos, like Chris said, at all times. And so this is also going to be a premium service. So this will be one of our revenues that we'll talk about later. But this premium service allows people to have security insured to them, and so they're willing to pay a higher price. Now I'd like to talk about our revenue streams. Our biggest revenue stream, of course, is commission. We will be taking a 20% commission on every transaction that happens, and that'll fund our company to increase parking spots. Our next one will be towing leads. So to ensure that there aren't people parking illegally in parking spots, a towing company that we're partnered with, we will send the leads to them and they will pay us and they'll be able to tow the cars away. And our last will be premium services. So like Amazon Cloud Cam and some other premium services, people will pay an extension to receive these services. And this is our roadmap. So in the first 2 years, we are going through market validation stage, which we will have 3 pilot markets, minimal staff, and a minimal viable product, plus what we're developing. The next will be an initial key market deployment, where we will be inside of 10 to 30 markets. We will have freelance hires added to our company, and we'll be implementing the Amazon Cloud Cam. And the last will be the nationwide deployment. We will try to be in 150 of the largest markets in the US. We'll be implementing the multi-platform, so we'll be on iOS, Android, and web, and we'll be having a full team. And now we'd like to open up to any questions while you can look at our projected cash flow.
Thank you very much.
Always. Was the demo real? Or
Yes,
was that,
yeah,
okay.
it's from the app. Actually, my phone's over there. It's on my iPhone. It's on my iPhone.
Love the tech. Two-sided market, interesting. It's probably a brand play. So how do you solve this customer acquisition problem? That ramps actually seems slow.
For the growth of the company?
Yes.
Okay. So we're starting off the year or two spent with less than 10 markets, maybe exaggerated in that we just want to test our app within the Richmond area, within Charlottesville, within Lynchburg, to make sure that people actually use. We want to gauge like the behavior of people. We want to gauge what they like, what they don't like. We want to have a perfect product by the time we actually make a national launch. So if we see that we have a perfected product, if we see that everything's going very well within the first 6 months, we may accelerate our plan.
I mean, what do you think is going to be your best plan for customer acquisition? Are we doing
from
micro
marketing
ads or Facebook or what?
Yeah, from a marketing standpoint, actually, two I guess good ideas for it. The first is rental cars, because people who are buying rental cars are going to a new city most likely, somewhere they're not familiar with. They don't know the area, they don't know what parking's like, so they would be very willing to use an app that'll help them with the parking. Secondly, this is kind of, I guess it's a classic form of advertising. It seems very basic, but billboards, because everybody who's viewing a billboard is in a car.
Spot inventory will obviously be an issue, but I was kind of curious about the competitor in the UK. Do you know anything about, are these venture-backed companies? Is there some kind of run rate or expectation that your price points hold to that is already out there in the marketplace?
So you're saying why we'll be better than
No.
Just Park,
I'm just saying, have they received venture capital? Are their price points similar to yours? Is this all kind of like tested in the marketplace and this is just about execution?
Yeah.
What can you say about that?
So actually, the reason we added Just Park to the presentation was because they are perfect market validation for us. They have similar prices, they've received a lot of funding, and they've actually been around for a while, so they've shown they have a really strong foundation. They actually were founded in 2006, which, to think about the way companies move, in 2014 is when Uber started to leave California, and that was 8 years before. So so there's a lot of market validation there, and many users.
There isn't, to your knowledge, there's no reason I can't sell my driveway. Like there aren't legislative problems here from getting into a business, insurance, someone breaks into the car into the driveway, hits it.
Well, so we're actually going to be implementing, similar to Airbnb, we're actually going to implement an insurance policy. So Airbnb, it's about like $1 million if there are damages. Obviously ours will be low because it's cars, but we'll be implementing an insurance policy.
Yeah, so when we start out, obviously we can't afford $1 million insurance policy because we're a startup. But we'll basically we're going to have an end user license agreement, obviously. We're basically going to engage the user in a rating system so that they understand that if they're looking at a user who has no ratings, no pictures on their spot, then they're taking a risk. So we're trying to enable the user to make the right decisions. And then after that point, by the time we make a national launch, we expect to have an insurance policy so that even if a user makes a bad decision, or even if a user runs into trouble with a parking spot, or vice versa, we'll be able to handle it.
And hopefully our good customer service will take care of a lot of the issues.
Yes.
And a lot of peer-to-peer platforms, you kind of take a risk by using them, Uber and Airbnb and others. Oh, is that it?
So, you guys have a tough decision.